I'm Patricia. I've lived many years in a number of places, done various kinds of work. Mostly I've been a teacher one way and another. A lot of my life I've been really poor, and this time I needed a pair of shoes and I was no longer really poor for complicated reasons, and I thought I'm going to get proper shoes. I'm not going to get cheap shoes that will soon wear out. And somehow they never have been comfortable. They're noisy shoes. They've always been noisy. And the shoe is somehow stronger than my foot, and my foot has to somehow accommodate to the shoe inside instead of the other way round. In my life, I'm not so sure where home is. There are places I've lived longer than other places. But my parents moved house when I was little a number of times, and I suffered from homesickness, and that interfered with me later feeling settled anywhere. So really I've not travelled geographically very far in these shoes, in and out round Oxford, journeys on holidays in this country. I don't think I've been abroad with this, wearing these shoes on my feet. But in a way, I'm probably abroad all my life. I look for people to smile as I pass them in the street, and people not queue jumping. And I like to notice people's gardens as I walk down into summertime. And the things that are disappointing, I suppose, if the wind is cold and everybody looks pinched and withdrawn, and you're in a city with many people, but everybody seems walled up inside themselves and there's no connections at all. So we're citizens of very lonely places some days. Before I moved to Oxford, people had said to me it's a very strange city. One person said it's an unfriendly city, and somebody else said it's like an open asylum. And both of these things I was dismissive of. I was amused, but didn't set much store on. But in fact, although neither of those statements are true, I also have met moments when they have been true. And I think if it's an unfriendly city, then at some moments it's my job to be friendly at other moments and to help to reduce the truth of that. There are all the quads. There is a sense of enclosure I see in Oxford, and the architecture gives this sense of something within, and you pass through a gateway and you still haven't reached an inner place because it folds in on itself through the architecture, and I have a feeling that Oxford doesn't quite disclose itself. It remains withheld. I think that's really the purpose of literature, which has been the chief subject that I have studied and taught in my life. I think literature is to help you understand the world and other people, because a writer gives you complete information, whereas in your life you're having to guess. I remembered somebody saying, in your life you can be like someone in a safe, warm room looking down on a busy street from your high windows, and there's a huge wind blowing down the street and people lean in odd ways to brace themselves against the wind you can't see, and all you see is people leaning in funny ways. And it's your job as you go through life to understand the strong winds that blow people inside themselves, their emotional problems, and that's why they are leaning against the winds, the storms inside them. I think what every human being needs is a chance to make decisions, to live their lives in ways that don't damage themselves and don't damage other people, and when they're younger they need guidance, so as young they learn to think, what's the consequence of what I contemplate doing? And I think that's the really important thing. There's a great English poem by a moderately good English poet. it's called After Blenheim, I think, in which a small child asked that question, but what good came of this? She was talking about a battle that she and her brother were becoming aware of. These children asked, what good came of it? And I think if that's what we all need, the kind of upbringing that helps us say, what good will come of this? And to be sure, as much as we can be, we never have complete knowledge, that we can take actions and decisions looking for a good outcome. And if we can't look for a good outcome, the wisdom to say, I won't take this action. The ability to move around your own country is something we take for granted. For a long time we've lived in a world where we can travel from our country to other regions, and we assume that right. Sometimes I think we use it very ungraciously. We come to other countries very blindly. We go to places and expect to find what we found at home instead of seeing what's there, either in people's behaviour or their customs or what they eat or how they behave in public. So I have been abroad and seen people behave on beaches or in squares in drunken ways, and you think how embarrassing those people are. I hope they're not English, and of course they are. I also think perhaps we want to move more than we emotionally need to. That intense loyalty to the parish, to the little streets that you grew up in, to that little lane, to that field beside the house where you were a child, is perhaps the best kind of patriotism, intensely local, rather than something abstract, the nation, or something like that. Everybody has to travel through time from birth to leaving this world, and I think as I have travelled, and I'm getting really old now, I think I have been perhaps too cautious, too timid. There have been circumstances that have forced me to be cautious. There's the kind of education people my generation had, where certain views of governance and self-governance and impulsiveness was discouraged. For many years I was bringing up 3 children unsupported by their father, who had chosen to live elsewhere. So life was very hard, and I think that curtailed the decisions because there were responsibilities that had to come first. So I think there were choices I couldn't make, but maybe my own timidity took my journey in other ways, and I accepted the constraints perhaps too willingly. There'll be a time when I am no longer here, and there will be some people, I hope, that remember me with affection. I hope my children do, particularly because they're the most important people I can think of, most important ones. So the affection in other people's heart really is the best possible trace to leave in this world. I sometimes mostly I don't think far ahead. I think, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do this week? And my plans beyond that are inhibited in some ways because there are pressures and responsibilities and uncertainties. So I don't really see a journey more than the little daily journeys that in the end are part of the importance of living kindly in this world.